Tayem Mercer, thank you so much for bringing me to your favourite bar, which is John Fallon's, the Liberties, City of Dublin.
That's the one, yeah. Thanks, Harry. Always a pleasure to catch up, and absolutely stoked to be having this conversation with you. Been a big follower of these conversations, and I think, look, I always say, right, you give people their flowers before they're dead. So, huge kudos to yourself and the entire team. The work you guys do at Digital Infrastructure Ireland is unbelievable, and I hope that that's recognised across the board.
Yeah.
But John Fallon's, it's a small pub in Dublin beside the Liberties.
Have me a cup of tea. Just get me a cup of tea. Yeah.
We'll change that to a pint.
Yeah.
But it's a great pub, and do you know why I like it, Gary? It's like old school. When you go in there, you go back in time. It's like an old school traditional Irish pub, right? And there's no TVs or anything like that, so you can just have conversations all the time. So I like it for that way. It's quite intimate.
Isn't it interesting? Because it's not the first time, Tayem, that somebody's brought up no TVs.
Right. Yeah, but it's, you know what? Because the new, I suppose, like when you go into a lot of pubs lately, there's TVs everywhere, and it's less conversational. I think that's what the traditional pub was, right? A place to go and have chats, have pints, get in trouble. But so I like that. And when I walked in Fallon's, like going back in time. It's awesome.
Yeah. And you wonder, don't you? Or maybe we don't wonder. Maybe it's a fact, is that with so much connectivity and so many screens and so much communication with other mediums, that it'll come back into fashion, actually, to meet someone and actually say, I don't know you. I don't know what you do. How's it going?
Yeah. I think so. And I think you're seeing it more. Like, for my opinion, I think there's people looking for that connection, that, conversation outside of the screen. And I think those screens have made people almost antisocial to a certain extent, Gary.
It's extraordinary that you say that. The new communications tools are discommunicating us. There's a discussion to be had on it, but it's wonderful that I'm in a traditional Irish bar.
Yes.
In the middle of the Liberties, and we will move on, but the Liberties is quite a unique place in itself, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah, it is. And you know what? This bar, like, you could miss it, right? So for anybody that's near the Liberties, you could miss it if you're going, because it's right around the corner, as if you're walking down towards Stephen's Green.
Yeah.
Right? Quite a small one, but it's a local. There'd be a lot of locals in there, but it's a great pub. And the Liberties is a great area as well. A lot of history down there as well, Gary.
It's unbelievable. You go down the Liberties and you can nearly still see a cobbler and a cooper. If you look hard enough, you'll actually see somebody fixing shoes.
You'd see horses and carts as well.
No, that's the truth as well. And again, going back to what you said earlier, is that it's amazing. It's quite extraordinary in a country like Ireland that you have to, out from city centre schools, they go out on trips to see a cow.
100%, yeah.
And see a chicken and stuff. But listen, we won't go too old school. We'll move it along. And so you're there, you're in John Fallon's, you're spending days and weeks thinking about what you're going to do to help others. And you're going to write a self-help book.
Yeah.
What's it called?
I would call it Dad's Principles for Life, right?
Right.
That's what I'd call it. I'd call it Dad's Principles for Life. And the reason I would, because I spent a lot of time, more time with my father lately than I did before. And I always ask him advice, what advice would he give his younger self? And so he's given me a lot of advice, and I'd mix it with a lot of my own sort of experiences in life that has helped me to succeed in my career and, in certain stages of life. And I think that'd be a good one, because, right, I look at it as, when I spend time with my dad, I'm as old as I am, I still feel like a young kid getting educated by his dad. And I think in the world we live in now, Gary, in society, I think young men need direction, right? And there's an absence. I do a lot of work with young people outside of my own career and motivating them and stuff. And there's always an absence of that. Let me put it this way. You can see those that lack male leadership or male role models, how they're affected in life. So I'd name the self-help book, Dad's Principles for Life. Giving kids the dad they never had.
It's good, and it's right and proper. Does it depend what age you are in? Because unfortunately, when we're young, we think we've invented, like every generation thinks they've invented music.
Yeah.
And everybody who picks up a guitar thinks they're the first ever guitar player. Do you have to wait though to a certain time in your life where you actually listen?
I don't think so. I
No.
think the younger the better, Gary, right? If you give a young person advice and you really sit them down and you give them key frameworks to work with, I think it always helps them in life. They'll make mistakes, and while you're young, you'll always make your mistakes, but I think you'll have some sort of barrier and boundary between how far you go wrong and how far you stay on the right path.
And is it about that word that we hear so much about, role models?
Yeah. I believe so. Yeah, it is. It is about that role model. You know what it is? Just somebody investing their time into people, and especially young people. They really take that on board if you really invest time into them.
That's an interesting one. So just actually the giving of your time, selflessness is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
absolutely. Yeah.
Demonstrating selflessness actually is probably more, as important as some of the words, is it?
Yeah, it is. I really think so. It is. And then look, because the work I do with young people, Gary, I've been a motivational speaker for a while, and
Yeah.
when you talk to young people, it's like when you give them curiosity of them achieving more and them becoming something, right? Give them a vision. That's the best way to say it. If you give them a vision and guide them towards, deciding on what the vision is they want for their life, then they will try their best to follow that route rather than other routes. But where kids don't have vision, they follow everybody else, and they
Yeah.
mix in with the group dynamic rather than their own sort of direction.
Well, isn't that it? And for good or for bad, from haircuts to football teams, kids like to be part of a peer group. They like to be
Yeah.
associated. And if it's the wrong term of reference, it goes one way. If it's the right term of reference, you just have to remind me. As a school teacher now, I'm fucking 100 years older than you are, but we had a teacher and he was great. And he used to say, I'm here not to preach, I'm here to teach.
Yeah.
And it was great because there's a big difference, isn't there?
Absolutely. I think, look, education for me and teaching is not you showing somebody or giving them new things, but helping them to draw those things out from themselves, helping them to be an initiative themselves. I think that's real education. And
Yeah.
it's funny
Yeah.
because I read something a long time ago on the word education, and it's like a Greek word that says eduko. That's where it comes from. And what that is, Gary, it means to draw out within. So all
Yeah.
education should be is drawing out the talents that's within an individual.
Yeah, and that isn't that one of the biggest challenges we have with education is that we're teaching people just words and numbers without actually understanding what they are. But
Yeah, it's a tough
what's
one.
the kindest thing, apart from the person who invited you to go to this pub for the first time? What's the other kindest thing anyone else has done for you?
Yeah, this is going to be completely random to anybody else, Gary, right? But it's something that's very sentimental to me. And I always used to ask myself, why did that make me emotional? Somebody bought me a book, Gary. That was the nicest thing. Somebody bought me a book, right? And when I got the book, it was a self-help book, actually, for a company I used to work for a couple of years ago. I worked for an online education company, and I done quite well in that company. But at a Christmas party, the CEO bought me a book, and it was a self-help book. It was the diary, I think it was CEO workflow or something like that. And it made me sentimental because I was like, that, giving me a book is an investment into my future. That's the way I looked at it. You gave me something that's going to feed me for life. You're teaching me how to fish.
Yeah.
And that meant more to me till this day than any other gift I've received. I've received money, I've received other things, but that stuck by me because that's something that it's like feeding me for life. And yeah, so that made me sentimental. And that's one of the nicest things up there for me that anyone's done to me.
But I think what I'm getting a sense from, and again, all jokes aside, you're younger by decades to myself.
A few years, Gary.
And what's wonderful is actually the recognition that small, random acts of kindness, whether it's being selfless to yourself to give a little bit of education or non-preaching to somebody, or something as simple as somebody taking the time to get a book that you might or might not use. That's the thing
Yeah.
about. That's the great thing about a book. is that you give it to somebody, and it really is. I like your analogy there. It really is like giving somebody a fishing rod.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I learned early on, Garry, right? I sit with a lot of old, wiser men.
That's a beautiful recovery. What a recovery. Because I have the off button here. That's the best recovery I've had in a long time. Go ahead.
Wiser men, Garry, right?
Beautiful. Keep going. You have loads more time.
and what I took from it, right, and what I take from my time with wiser men, is that, you know, the difference between where I am and where I need to get to is information. So if I can get that information either through direct conversation or through a book, and reading has really transformed my life in a major way, then that's very important and it's very critical. And I was an early stage in my life where I was like, okay, well, I want to make something of myself in a sales career. How do I do that? And so all the information, I appreciated. And that book, you know, for me, because when I started reading, I started seeing how much more I was growing as an individual, and I'm becoming a little bit more critical thinking, creative, analytical, problem solving. So when he gave me that's why it really meant a lot to me, because like, you're giving me a lot of knowledge, and that's priceless, Garry. To me, it's priceless.
No, totally. Yeah. And you know, I said earlier about the music analogy. Everybody thinks, or every generation thinks they've invented music, but there is only 12 notes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
There's only 12 notes. Now, you might like, you know, reggae, and I might like jazz and something else.
Yeah.
But let's agree that we like music. Then let's talk about music, and we can argue or discuss or whatever. Yeah. So listen, I could probably go on another half an hour of you saying nice things about more wise men, older men, or whatever. But the show is short and sharp, and this has certainly been enlightening.
Thank you, Garry.
I think it's wonderful that a young man like yourself has, and I'll use the word wisdom, is because wisdom doesn't have to be due to age. It can be just information, informed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can meet an informed 20-year-old. You can meet an ill-informed 65-year-old. And it's a funny old thing now that maybe I have to be careful, and my age people, that you're not judgy.
Yeah.
You know. And
you're a young man, Garry.
And, well, I'm a wise man, according to you. And with that, we have got to finish this show. It's been a good episode. It's been an honest. I have a great sense of who you are. I hope the listeners also do. Tayem Mercer, thank you so much for bringing us to your favorite bar.
Thanks for having me, Garry.
Thank you so much for sharing some of your insights and the way you look at life. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thanks, Garry. All the best.